Eagle 6 in the track.
Roger.
Over 1 bombs away. 1's going to climb high above 20. You're south.
Eagle 6 radar contact. Eagle 6 is visual.
And it goes left.
Hello there, welcome back to the DCS SITREP, where we discuss news and information about the world's premier combat flight simulator for the home PC. It's produced by Eagle Dynamics, and it's called DCS World. And I'm called Prickly Hedgehog, your host. So let's talk about this week's newsletter, which was an update on 2 huge modules coming to DCS World. The first is the MiG-29A, and the second is the Afghanistan map, which ED hinted this week was close to some sort of purchase state. Let's begin with discussion on the Fulcrum, though, which you'll recall was featured in the 2024 and beyond video, and also that ED had been silent on that project for some years. So it was a welcome surprise when they touted it was coming as a full fidelity Red 4 aircraft, and also the Afghanistan map as well earlier this year being revealed, along actually with Iraq. So according to the newsletter, the Fulcrum will be the export modification of the A version that was supplied to Warsaw Pact countries. No surprise there. Remember that the motherland, if you like, Russian specific aircraft are generally not available to us. Typically that is covered by legal reasons and espionage and all that kind of stuff. It's guarded by national secrecy, similar to what we see in the United States. So to get around that particular law, ED is allowed to use export variety aircraft. So the MiG-29A was designed to counter all types of aerial targets with radar and infrared guided R-27, 73 and 60 air-to-air missiles, and its single-barreled 30mm cannon with 150 rounds of ammunition. You'll note it is a larger caliber, the 30mm, than typically what the US and even the UK and other nations typically use. So 150 rounds of ammunition doesn't sound like a lot, but that bigger caliber will do a lot more damage. The MiG-29A also has limited visual ground attack capability with 50 to 500 kg bombs, cluster bombs, and unguided S5, S8, and S24 rockets. So in simple terms, it won't be the all-rounder that its NATO rivals, such as the F-16 particularly, the F-15E, F-18, and even, I guess to a lesser extent, the F-14 were in terms of capacity as ground attack aircraft, particularly the F-16, of course, which really came on board as a multi-role aircraft. The F-18 also purpose-built for that. Now, although, fun fact, around 24 Fulcrums were shipped to East Germany during the Cold War, and then once the Berlin Wall collapsed back in 1989 and the country reunified post that, those Fulcrums essentially were absorbed into the West German Luftwaffe and ironically became NATO-designated aircraft. So interesting little fun fact there. Now, ED went on to say that the MiG-29A can operate day or night and in all weather conditions. Its radar is capable of look down, shoot down in a heavy electronic countermeasure environment. The weapons control system consists of 2 complexes, the Fire Control Radar, or FCR, and the Optical Electronic Targeting Navigation System, which I'm calling OTENS, OETNS. So the OTENS includes an optical electronic sighting system, or OESS, a navigation system, a weapon control system, a unified display system, and multifunctional control panels. So the the OEPS includes an optical location station that consists of an infrared search and track system, a laser range finder, and also, rather excitingly, a helmet-mounted site designation system, or HMS. And that particular piece of equipment was, when it was first revealed that the MiG-29 had that, generally Western jets did not have the helmet-mounted queuing systems that we see today, so there was a lot of concern about what that particular feature could do and how deadly it was for upon aircraft basically being able to be shot at off bore sight and all sorts of fancy angles that previously wouldn't have been possible. It's a pretty cool piece of equipment that obviously was quickly adopted by Western allies. Now, the MiG-29 is equipped with the SBO-15 Burr-Yoiser radar warning receiver, a defense system that is designed to warn of radar-directed weapon attacks to protect against infrared-guided weapons. No surprise, the MiG-29A is also equipped with flare dispensers. The navigation system consists of an onboard navigation equipment suite, a vertical and heading information complex, an airborne signal system as part of the Optical Electronic Targeting Navigation System, or OTENS again. And so the key features of the DCS MiG-29A Fulcrum at early release are going to be the following: fully interactive and highly detailed cockpit that is based on 3D laser scanning and photogrammetry. No surprises there, that seems to be the industry standard now for DCS World. Highly detailed and accurately reproduced external model, again, same as above. Highly detailed pilot model, which we're starting to see now. In-depth study of aircraft systems and equipment, that's to be expected. Detailed model of the navigation system with the gyro platform, reference system, air data computer and navigation equipment. Cool. Defensive equipment to include the SBO 15LM Buoyancer and flare dispenser system. Fire control radar and authentic modes for aerial targets, and OTANs with modes for air and ground targets. So pretty cool. And lastly here, at final release, they say there will be the addition of IFF interrogation systems and the additional ground control intercept command system, or the GCI. So it's really a very, very promising and exciting piece of news, and brings to life, I think, the MiG-29A as a flagship aircraft for Red 4 enthusiasts and for those looking to flesh out the Red 4 stable of aircraft available to them. Remember, this is a Gen 4 aircraft, and as we described before, it was designed to compete with those F-16s and F-15s that were available to NATO during the Cold War. And it was regarded as a very, very real threat and a decent rival, although it seems that the export version of the aircraft, and in this case it's going to be the DCS module as well, lack some of the best electronic features the plane flying out of the Russian homeland possessed, again being an export version, similar to what we see with homeborn aircraft in the US and export versions, depending on the end client wants, but also restrictions on what technology can actually be imported out. So, or exported out, the better term there. So in simple terms, what it means is that the long-range capacity for the aircraft in the real world at least was limited compared with NATO equivalents on a pure peer-to-peer basis. So that being said, it was considered lethal within 10 miles, especially since it housed the helmet-mounted cueing system, or the equivalent of that, and the sort of the off-bore sight, over-the-shoulder style launch capacity that most of us are familiar with now. As you saw, this will be a feature of the DCS MiG-29, which is really, really exciting. So bringing that aircraft into knife fight range is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, that will be the challenge for budding MiG-29 pilots in DCS world, being able to spoof or get beyond the search range of some of the other aircraft. So it's going to be a fun experience. So the big question then is, when will we see the aircraft in game? Well, obviously it's way too early to speculate with any accuracy. The list of details is expected for a full fidelity module of this nature, and it will be a complex aircraft to produce, no doubt. Wags had said some time back that there were projects in the works. He wasn't able to discuss what projects, and I believe he said that included aircraft at that time, and I think that was a Mover and Gonki episode. That was several months back. So if, which seems to be the trend here these days with ED and DCS World, they've been producing this or working on this module, we probably can expect that they've been working on it in secret for about 2 years. Obviously, depending on resources and depending on what other projects they had, including things like the Apache. Obviously, they're working on the Chinook right now. So it's still probably far along. However, that's pure speculation, doesn't clarify any measurable progress that we can sort of gauge as to when it's likely to be introduced. As I said, we've got these other issues in terms of conflicts in the pipeline with the Chinook being produced as well. They have these other maps. They also have the Hellcat that they're working on as well. We did hear that they are working on the flight model and cargo simulation of the Chinook, which is taking time. So we shall have to see if there are more precise updates, more detailed updates on the progress that's actually being made on the MiG-29, and for that matter, the Chinook as well, before we get way too excited in anticipation kicks of the module being released. Certainly not in 2024, I think, but nonetheless, this is a good benchmarker for them and gives us some idea of what we're going to get and what we can expect from this aircraft in game, as I've outlined in those details. Pretty exciting stuff. Let me know what you think about the MiG-29 being released.
Big one, station time, 5 minutes to push, pushing up, reference 0.85.
Well, let's turn to part 2 and something a little bit more tangible in terms of potential timelines, and that's the fabulous news about the Afghanistan map, with an enticing teaser from ED hinting at a possible pre-order release date soon to be announced. So the DCS Afghanistan map is progressing on schedule, ED say, with significant milestones achieved. They have committed to delivering a highly immersive and authentic representation of Afghanistan for virtual pilots to explore and engage in combat operations. Continued collaboration, testing, and refinement will ensure the map's successful completion and release to our DCS community. Cool. Development progress, they say here in the title. Well, they have made substantial progress in recreating the diverse landscape of Afghanistan. This includes the rugged mountain ranges of the Hindu Kush and the vast deserts of the Dasht-e-Kavir and Dasht-e-Lut, and the fertile valleys and river basins. Efforts have been dedicated to accurately portraying and reproducing the unique cultural and urban features of Afghanistan, which is exciting. And this involves recreating cities like Kandahar and Herat, with special attentions to landmarks, infrastructure, and architectural styles like the Blue Mosque of Herat, and aerial imagery has been utilized to enhance the realism and accuracy of the map. High-resolution satellite imagery is being integrated to provide authentic terrain textures and details. Again, very exciting. So the diverse terrain and complex topography of Afghanistan has presented some technical challenges due to the large mountainous ranges, and that's something that I know the South Atlantic map producers ran into challenges with, trying to get those peaks and valleys and troughs and cliffs and all that kind of stuff looking realistic without being too jagged based on the way in which the map software works. That proved to be quite a lot of work for them, and they did an amazing job of making those majestic mountains look really, really amazing, and they continue to do optimization of that. And ED said the same thing here, so optimization efforts are ongoing to maintain performance without compromising on visual fidelity, particularly in densely populated urban areas and detailed terrain features. The map is designed to look equally as good from low to high altitude. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and how it compares to some of the other rugged maps that we have. So the proof is going to be in the pudding, and that's very exciting. Now they go on to say that their future plans to expand the map. So the picture that you're looking at right now hopefully shows the area that's going to be available to us in early access. They are going to include at launch places like Kandahar, Herat, Bost, Camp Bastion, Shagsharan, Dwyer, Farah, and several other places as well. I will not try to read these out because I'm going to bastardize them without a lot of practice. So the focus on completing the detailing of terrain features includes rivers, roads, vegetation, rocks, small stones, ground clutter, and geological formations to enhance the immersion and realism, which is really cool. And then extensive testing and optimization will be conducted to ensure optimal performance and compatibility with a wide range of hardware configurations. So stay tuned for the pre-order coming soon. Now I don't have early access to this map yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to get that. Sometimes ED does allow myself and some of the other content developers to have access to these new maps and do some showcasing. We're obviously not at that stage yet, and I don't know if I'm going to be on that list of lucky people to do that. Nonetheless, I'd love to get my hands on that map and look at some comparatives with, like I said, places like South Atlantic, just to see if there's any differences in the way that they're doing things, if there's any new resolutions, if you like, that they have to produce that realism that we love, especially under 2.9 right now. The maps look absolutely amazing, especially in certain lighting. The map is generally being well received in the early announcement that they made, and albeit with the usual complaints about another desert map. And I think, sure, the terrain itself is perhaps a bit meh if you're comparing it to, say, Syria and the Persian Gulf, Nevada and stuff like that. You say, yeah, we've got all these maps that look kind of similar. But I think in fairness, historically, the thrust of the conflicts in both Afghanistan and the broader region make it a worthwhile map to produce. I think it's just irrelevant that the vegetation, the climate, and the topographical features happen to be more desert-like. And I think, in fairness too, Afghanistan is actually a little bit more rich than just that. Certainly, yeah, the Vietnam map promised that's going to be popular, but we're not there yet. And of course, Iraq is clearly ahead in the pipeline anyway, which is going to cause some people some gnashing of teeth with the desert map theme issue. But I think Afghanistan map makes good sense for ED at this juncture, given the assets that they already have in game. And remember, they are working on Marianas for the World War II theater as well, which requires a lot more assets. So there's less, I think, not necessarily less work, but there's less stress for them in terms of timelines with the content that they already have to be able to slot this map in, and it's still being very, very popular, functional, and practical for people to create mission sets and campaigns surrounding this map. I think it's a good idea. So They already have the Chinook, they already have the C-130 in line as well, so there's going to be great mission sets here. Remember the A-10-2 tank killer is going to be perfect for this environment, so there's a lot of variability. We have also some Red 4 helicopters, the Mi-8 and the Mi-24, so they've got the options here to produce some really interesting things, and that's again why I think it makes sense. Let me know if you agree in the comment section below, whether you're looking forward to it. I am very, very excited about this map coming to DCS World. So that pretty much summed up this week's ED's newsletter portion, aside from the reminder that the spring sale ends on the 24th. Hey, that's tomorrow, so don't miss out on those great deals so that you can enjoy all of the thrills and spills of DCS World.
Next, push it up, check tips, jammers on, commit reference 75.
Now in part 3 of this video, we're going to focus on news from Heatblur, who, as most of you know, will be aware by now that they had to delay the Phantom 2 release by as late as May, but hopefully as early as April. They reminded us that they are still working feverishly hard to complete the module and released some screenshots of the AI logical processing for Jester 2 on Facebook recently. In this case, it was the vision algorithm for the APQ-120 radar system to mimic what they say a real-world Wizzo would see and interpret from the system. And they described the following. A challenging or very challenging part of building Jester for the Phantom 2 has been the way that he uses and interfaces with the radar. The APQ-120 is an old pulse-only radar, and utilizing it in a complicated environment is a true challenge, as you have to, well, they say, interpret the smudges. So we're definitely not going to get the clarity that we see in the F-16, the F-18, and the F-15E, for example. So they wanted Jester to be as authentic in this respect as possible, and just as they have a vision algorithm for Jester's eyeballs for anything going on outside of the cockpit, so too do they have now been able to simulate how he sees and interprets the radar screen. Pretty sophisticated stuff. So using convolutions of the radar scope, they've come up with a way to fairly accurately and authentically recreate what a real Wizzo could understand from a given radar image. So Jester will not cheat and see contacts through the clutter or other radar returns, but rather will interpret the radar using a mathematical model. Again, sophisticated stuff. We've tried to tune this as accurately to what a real human would be able to see as possible, and they've attached some images for examples of how Jester interprets contacts and the convolution provides them. Now, as part of that, they've introduced swim lanes, or the way in which Jester uses hands, eyeballs, and voice. So this has been introduced in the last couple of days, they say, and it's introduced more advancements to Jester in that sense. They had hoped they could get away with a single action cue for Jester for all things related to his actions, that is speaking, flipping switches, or looking elsewhere. However, unfortunately, they noticed a slowdown in Jester once all of his functionality started slotting into place, necessitating the need of adding what they have dubbed as swim lanes. So these are sort of co-routine multitasking systems split across the natural elements of a human: hands, eyes, and voice. Each can independently execute tasks like a real human, i.e. look at something, say something, or manipulate something. In that way, they have naturally split Jester's ability to do things in a more natural way, and thus not inhibit cockpit manipulation while speaking and vice versa, which would have been impeded by the single thread, I think. So in addition, they've introduced a barrier system to complement the swim lanes, and this acts like a sort of synchronization point which can synchronize two or more swim lanes where necessary. Very useful in a situation where Jester should specifically execute actions in a specific order, even if that sense or appendage is otherwise free. Think, for example, of a situation where Jester flips a switch and then confirms that he has flipped it up. With the swim lanes in place, they've now unblocked the task blocking and queuing issues that they had been running into, yielding a more natural and responsive Jester. Pretty cool. And remember too, this is in response to the fact that the Phantom's backseater has a lot more manipulation of an older analog system compared to the digital systems that we have available in more modern jets. So Heatblur provided a little picture here, if you like, or a diagram of an example of how the swim lanes are used in the API. So hopefully you're looking at that picture right now. So the team say that they will continue to update us with snippets of any updates and information about the progress that they're making as part of their transparency, and in a way, in part, I guess, to do with the apology from the disappointment of not having the aircraft ready for Q1. So stay tuned for more information on that as they surge towards that early quarter two spring release. And while we discuss snippets, I am giving away a Phantom 2 this week to a lucky subscriber, so make sure you hashtag Heatblur in any of the comments below that you're making, and I will pluck a lucky winner from the list of people there. I am going to take a little break from DCS next weekend to recharge the batteries over Easter. We did have, unfortunately, a death in the family this week on Mrs. Prickly Hedgehog's side of the family, so we both need a little break and a little time to decompress, sadly. But, life goes on, and I still want to keep bringing you news, we're going to take a little break for a week. So thanks again for tuning in once again. Thanks for the likes, subscribes, the comments, and also those of you who like to help the channel with the super thanks donations. That is a huge help to the channel. Thank you so much for that. Make sure you're subscribed to catch up on more news and analysis of DCS World from me, Prickly Hedgehog, and we'll see you next time on the next DCS SITREP, maybe some things in between. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you later.
Make 2, make 3, close up. 8, your discretion. Have a safe flight.